Hello and welcome to the Pearson Communications educational series. Today we'll be talking about why do I need a website? More specifically, we're going to talk about why you may need a personal website. Of course, every business is well served by having a website, but what about individuals? Many people believe that they don't need a website because they use social networks such as Facebook or YouTube or Twitter as a means of sharing their thoughts and ideas in an online format. But this is great for sharing links and other short messages, but there are some things that you may want to consider in terms of having your own personal site. Should you really allow your only web presence to be on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or any other social networking site? Or should you have a home base where people can come and it's not controlled by a third party? So that's what we'll be talking about today. Just to give you a quick overview of our discussion points, and the first thing we're going to cover is how you can control your own content. You can centralize your communications. There are also some career advantages to having your own personal website that we'll cover. And in addition to that, we'll talk about all of the different ways people use their personal websites. I mean, that's everything from online stores to blogs to just showcasing things for their hobbies. We'll talk about all of that. And then finally, we're going to discuss how to get started with your own website. If you don't have one now, if you've only been using Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or whatever, then we'll talk about the first steps that you need to do. So let's get started. The first thing is when we talk about controlling our own content, you may be using these networks that we talked about like Facebook or Twitter or even YouTube or Blog TV. And these are great for sharing short messages, keeping in contact with people. They work because everybody's on them, right? But there is a downside to that. And the downside is that you are allowing your content to be 100% controlled by a third party. So you can have a YouTube suspension or a Facebook suspension or even a Twitter account suspension. And when that happens, what happens? You lose all of your contacts. You lose the base that you built if you're a person who's trying to build a base of followers. All of that is just out of the window as soon as a third party decides we don't like your content or you've violated the terms of use. So that's something to think about. Having your own website will just put you into the driver's seat. It gives you complete control and rights to the content that you generate. So you really want to be sure that even if you're posting things on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter or even Blog TV, that you also have a home base, a place where people can come to find out about you, a place where they say, hey, this guy was funny on Facebook. I want to be able to go back and find him since his account seems to be disabled. There are no new videos. How do we find him? Well, if you're always building your own home base, building your brand, then you'll be able to do that. If not, then you're really a victim of whatever the third party decides to do. So the next thing that I'd like to talk to you about is centralizing your communications. One thing that this can do is having your own website, you'll have your base, your home base, the place that controls the way that you decide to communicate with any of the social networks. Now, you can actually make a post to your own blog or post an article, any post to your website. And you can connect that with your social networking accounts where they will automatically disseminate that information. So you're centralizing the communication on your site. Not only is that more efficient, but it'll also automatically post it to Facebook or Twitter or Blog TV, YouTube, or a number of other social networking sites that will allow you to, in one click, be able to post whatever message you want, post whatever content you want, and have it spread out to all of the networks. The next thing that we'd also like to talk about is the career advantages. These days, in the economy that we have now, people are more desperate than ever when it comes to trying to land a job or gigs or freelance, whatever it is that they do. One of the career advantages to having your own personal website is you can use it however you wish. Maybe you want to have a resume or a CV website, a place where you send potential employers or prospective employers to your site to check out your job skills, your education, and really what your objective is. You know, what types of jobs are you looking for? This is a great way to have them be able to have a place for you to tell about yourself. And there are so many different things that you can do with these types of sites. You can have everything from a simple sort of a resume website like what you see here, all the way to people. Some people actually make videos of themselves talking and discussing their skill set, much like what an interview would be. So the people get an opportunity to feel like they get to know you personally. The other thing is, many employers, after having been surveyed, say one of the first things they do when they look at prospective employees is they go and they Google them. So if your name comes up in Google and all that shows up is what you put on Facebook or Twitter or any of the other social networks, well, is that really the first impression that you want a potential employer to have of you? You want to be able to control what your brand is, whether we're talking from a personal perspective or a business perspective. You want to be able to control what is being seen and said. The first thing on the list really should reasonably be your own personal website. They shouldn't have to hunt for you, and it's really, if unless you have a very, very common name, there's no reason why when you Google your own name that you shouldn't come up at least on the first page, and preferably in the top listing, or at least in the top three. The other thing that having a personal website does is shows that you're up with the technology. You are with the times. You are not, in a world of technology and the right now, you're not back working on a typewriter, sending everything through, regular snail mail and stuff. It's showing that you are current with the technologies available for the given time. So, again, and I'm sure there are many more career advantages that I haven't mentioned, but these are still yet good reasons to have your own personal website. The next thing is I wanted to talk to you about is how do people, what types of sites are they using for their personal websites? What are they doing with these sites? So one thing that a lot of people do is they have an online store. Another thing that people use their personal websites for is their portfolio. You see this a lot for artists, whether that's visual artists like photographers, painters, the people who draw, or videographers, all the way to people who are singers and other types of musicians. This is a way that they show and display what they can do, and it's a great place for them to send people. You want to know about me? You want to learn about me? Well, here, just check out my website. You can see all the paintings I made, or you can hear me sing, or you can watch me play an instrument, whatever the case may be. So that's another way that people use their sites. And we just talked about resumes and CVs. That's another way. And then showcase for your hobbies. So many people have hobbies, whether you're talking about, collecting baseball cards all the way to comic books, or maybe you like to operate and collect trains. There are so many different hobbies that a person can have, but one of the great things about hobbies is you also want to sort of show your collection off. Having your own personal website is a great way to be able to do that. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is an online venue for artists to share and sell their work. So not only can you display the work, but you can sort of combine your portfolio with an online store, and maybe you're selling paintings online, or maybe you're selling prints of things, artwork that you've done, or selling MP3 downloads for music that you've played and made. So the sky is just really the limit in terms of that. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to get started. The first thing you want to really do is think about what type of site you want. In order to know what type of site you want, you really need to know what the purpose of the site is. So if I'm saying, I think I want to have a site where I showcase my knitting and other types of things that I do for my hobby, then that right there will say, all right, so if we want to showcase, we probably want to have a way to make blog posts or articles, as well as add pictures and images, and maybe even I want to sell some things, so an online store probably would not be a bad idea. The next thing you want to find out is whether or not you want to build the site yourself. Now, there are plenty of ways that you can have a do-it-yourself solution and build a website, but many people will tell you that these solutions wind up being one of two things. Either one, you're going to invest a lot of time on the front end, especially if you're not experienced, on trying to get that set up for yourself, or it's not going to come out at the level that you want it to come out. So really you have to decide, and in many cases our pocketbooks decide those things, right? So if you have more time than you do money, then maybe trying to build a site for yourself is something that you think is a reasonable thing that you'd like to do. And if it's going to be fairly simple, then I would say give it a try if that's what you'd like to do. And one great thing about PearsonCommunications.com is we do have a number of tutorials, video tutorials as well as articles that will give you some of the basic information you need to know and understand in order to effectively build your own website. In addition to that, you can always go the custom route. In other words, have someone else build your site for you. So they'll build the site, get it set up and everything, but then you would still be able to maintain the site moving forward in terms of updates that you wanted, if you wanted new articles on there or post new images and things like that. But it's just that the front end work of the site would be done by someone else. And of course, that is a little bit more expensive than if you decide to do it yourself. The next thing you want to think about is the look and feel of the site. Once you know what you want to do with the site, then now it's time to think about the colors you may want to use, whether you want to have a very casual or a very formal looking site. Obviously, maybe a hobby site might be more casual than, say, a site that's going to have your resume or CV on it. Okay? Next, you want to consider the content, because the thing that makes the website is not just the colors that you use, or whether or not it's a really really cool theme design. What makes the site is the content, especially the visual content like the photos, or audio, or whatever or video that you decide to put in. So when we talk about content, we mean photos as well as the text for the site and any other type of media that you want to incorporate. So a website needs information. Who's going to write that information? You have two options. One, you can write the information yourself, or you can pass that responsibility on to someone else and pay them to write your content for you. Especially when it comes to the content that you might want to use on your actual pages of your site. When I say pages, I mean things like your home page or your About Me or your bio page. So it just depends on how comfortable you are with it. If you're comfortable, go ahead and go ahead and do it yourself. If you're not comfortable, you may want to outsource that to a professional writer who can give you the best foot forward in terms of your content, your text that you're going to have on the site. The next thing I want to mention with regard to photos is that photos need to be high quality. Now, they don't have to be, super, super high quality for them to display well on a website. But what you need to be sure of is that you're not going to have photos that are too small for the space that you're trying to take up. In other words, you've got the photo expanded or blown up and it looks grainy. Um, the best photos are ones that are going to be vivid images and look very sharp and crisp on screen. So if it's not a good photo, if it doesn't have good lighting and it looks really dim, it looks really bad, then that's going to make your site look bad. So you want to be sure to pick quality photos. Now, you can of course do find photos in a couple ways. One, you can take them yourself. And if you have your own crafts and hobbies, it may be practical that you want to take pictures of things that you've actually created. So it may not be such a bad idea to just look up some information on how to take just basic information on how to take good photographs in terms of the way that the lighting, where the position of the lighting and so on, so that you can have the best quality that you can for taking the photos yourself. The next thing you can do is actually purchase, if it's not something that's very specific that you're trying to describe, then you can purchase what they call stock photographs, or you can get stock photographs for free. And there are a number of different sites where you can find free photographs for your websites online directly, and just download them right then and put them on your site. And usually the only requirement is that you just have to credit the photographer in the photo or in on the page where you've used the photo. And if you want to know more about that, check out our tutorial on how to find free photos for your website, and I'll be sure to put that link in the in the description box of this particular presentation. Okay, and then finally, for additional help, like I said before, we have tutorials on PearsonCommunications.com that you can view, articles that you can read that are really meant for the beginner or intermediate person when it comes to someone who's not hugely experienced with graphic design and not hugely experienced with web design. So we're talking about lay people. This stuff is made for you. If you want to know how to use things in layman's terms, then that's what we do in our tutorials. So in closing, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining me today. Hopefully you understand why you need a personal website, and why that's so important. If you have questions about this tutorial or any other tutorial that we've done, feel free to visit us on the web at www.pearsoncommunications.com, and you can ask us any question you like, and perhaps we'll even make a tutorial or a discussion video like this after. So thank you again for joining me. My name is Cherie Pearson, and have a great day.